Hello and welcome to the AJ Sports Show, where we talk about sports and we talk about AJ and A. So,
what's up, guys?
How's it going, everybody?
Good.
Welcome back to episode 3. As you can see, we are fruitful in our design to have all of us in one room. Welcome in. We're going to get right into it. All right, so we had the All-Star Draft just 2 nights ago. We're going to do a little review about that. All right, so we were pretty close with some of our choices. I think we were maybe like 3 or 4 people off there. We're looking at Team Durant right here. He chose Kawhi, Kyrie, Joel Embiid, Tatum, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Julius Randle, Nikola. Is it Nikola?
Yeah.
Nikola Vucevic.
Perfect.
James Harden, who went pretty late, I guess, in terms of that. Zach LaVine, Zion Williamson, and Don Mitch. His team looks pretty good. What do you think about that, Jay?
Yeah, I think his team's pretty good. You're starting Embiid, Kyrie, Kawhi. I think Kyrie was his first pick, if I remember correctly. So I think he's got a solid team. Him not playing definitely devalues them just a little bit because obviously he's Kevin Durant.
Yeah. So who's replacing him without him playing?
Tatum is going to be starting.
Okay.
Yeah,
gotcha. Right on. And then we got Team LeBron James.
Mm-hmm.
So I am going to butcher a name in a second. LeBron James, Giannis Antetokounmpo,
That's it.
Stephen Curry, Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, Jaylen Brown, Paul George, Rudy Gobert. Even though he was drafted last, he's somewhere in the middle of this. Dame Lillard, Chris Paul, Sabonis, and Ben Simmons. What do we think about LeBron's team?
I think it was kind of funny because you mentioned Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell was the pick right before him, so they were the last 2 picks. And LeBron goes ahead and says, no slander to Utah or anything, but no disrespect, but none of us picked them when we used to play like video games. So basically, like nobody likes Utah.
That was the nicest way possible to say, sorry, Utah, you're a smaller state. You're not a mainstream team, but hey, I mean, they had they had 2 people representing them, so I mean, they must have done something right in Utah.
Absolutely.
And they're getting a third now with Mike Conley replacing Devin Booker due to injury, who was already replacing Anthony Davis due to injury.
Inception of the All-Star game.
Right on. So we have the game coming up this weekend. Obviously, you'll be able to catch that tomorrow, as well as the 3-point contest. I think Devin Booker is being replaced there too. Is it by Mike Conley as well?
He's also going to take his place there.
Right.
Yeah.
Does Mike Conley have a shot to win a 3-point contest?
I don't know. He's shooting 42% from the 3-point line this year, which would be a career high for him. So I think anybody has a shot as long as you get into a good rhythm. I mean, guys like Jason Kapono back in the day, like who didn't really do anything on the court, just showed up and won 3-point contests. So I think it just depends on how you're feeling. So I mean, I could see it. It'd be cool to see a lefty win a 3-point contest. I don't know when or if that's ever happened.
Yeah.
We'll have to contact the people upstairs to ask that question.
Researchers right on it.
All right, so we have a Texas-sized fight night possibly. Texas has lifted all restrictions from COVID-19, so that means you can go out in public now, not wear a mask, and all of the businesses are about 100% capacity. Will people still go out? Yeah, it's to be seen, but I'm sure most of the public out there is going to take advantage of that. Dana White is pursuing, some of the major cities there. He tried and failed with Dallas, so he's currently trying to get Houston to host his big fight night that was supposed to be in Vegas next month. They haven't hosted an event here in the States for almost a year. But yeah, I mean, I mean, it's it's newsworthy because COVID-19 is newsworthy. What do you? We do have a UFC take though, Andrew.
I hate UFC fights. Not that I hate them. I can't watch them. They make me cringe. I've watched several fights and like I've seen some McGregor fights that haven't been as brutal, but I've seen some other fights of just some of these up and comer guys, and I can't stomach like the sight anymore of them like being like whacked right on the bridge of the nose or something by a flailing ankle or something. I can't see it. I can't. There's people being mashed or thrown, or it's just not my thing. Dana White, hopefully you have if you end up putting on this fight in Texas, hopefully it goes well and hopefully everyone stays safe. I only know one name. It's because it's kind of like one of the coolest names to say, I guess, but he's 20-0 and his record is being put on the line in a title fight. If you guys are interested, Israel Adesanya. So if you guys want to watch him, go ahead and check him out. And Amanda Nunes is fighting too. I don't know if anybody likes Amanda Nunes, but those are the names on the card. I will not be watching.
She fought Ronda Rousey once, right? I think that's.
I think she beat Ronda Rousey, and that's what kind of derailed Rousey's career.
Amanda Nunes is the bee's knees. I think.
She's UFC fighting.
Pretty good talent.
Right.
Right on. Well, that was his hot take. For what it's worth. All right, so Blake Griffin, is he tripping? Okay, so tripping because he left $36 million on the table this year, $39 million next year. I mean, I might play with Detroit for $36 million a year this year.
I agree with you.
Might as well.
So his buyout's done. He's looking at possible landing spots for this season. He's going to talk to teams and then make his decision. He's looking at the Nets, Warriors, Heat, Trailblazers, and the Los Angeles Lakers. So question for Jay. He's been a little injured. I don't know if he's as dynamic. What do you think? Is he still valuable to assuming he lands on a championship winning team?
Right. I think he can add value depending on, again, where he goes and what role they ask him to play. Unfortunately, we've lost a lot of what we used to know of Blake Griffin due to injuries. His injury history has let us down to see a path now of a shell of a former player that used to be one of the most athletic players in the league. Kevin Pelleton of ESPN even stated that he's no longer even as athletically gifted as the average NBA player. And to put that into perspective, he's the only player in the NBA who is above 6'7" with 150 shots taken to not have a dunk on the season. He seemed to be improving his outside shot, which would really help him in terms of losing some of that athleticism in 2018, 2019. He shot 7 3-pointers a game at about a 36% clip, which was some of the best shooting of his career. Over the last 2 seasons, he's still shooting 7, but we're at a 28% clip now. So that's quite a drop off when you're looking at 3-point shootings. He used to be known as a rim protector and somebody who athletically on defense was able to use his athleticism to stay in front of people and make plays, impact plays defensively. In 626 minutes this season, he only has 2 blocks at the rim, and opponents are shooting 71% inside 5 feet against him. So, if you get inside on Blake Griffin, you got about a 3/4 shot at making that basket, which is something I don't think anybody would have said back in the day when he was over there in Lob City, Block City, whatever they were with the Clippers. I personally believe the 2 best fits are the Warriors and the Nets. The Nets have a ton of shooting. It'll allow him to be the playmaker in the pick and roll and be able to distribute the ball to shooters, which is something he's still above average at. Might be the only thing he's still above average at. Yeah. The Warriors are a good fit because they have Draymond, who does a lot of similar things that he does. He'd have to come off the bench, which is the only way I can really see that working. They have quite a bit of shooters too. And then one team that was a fit that I think people were mentioning that I just don't see is our very own Lakers. Doesn't make any sense to me. He doesn't play the 5. He played the 4 the entire season. Anthony Davis has already made it known, I don't know how many times, that he doesn't like to play the 5 and he plays the 4. The one thing that we do lack this season that we had last season was rim protection with Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee. He doesn't add that. So I think going to either the Warriors or the Nets would be a good spot for Blake Griffin, but he's going to have to come off the bench just because that athleticism and that shooting is just not what it used to be.
Well, of those teams, do you know who do you think has like the best rim protection for him to like kind of slide in there, even though he'll bring that deficit of maybe interior players scoring on him
right.
who can make up for his lack thereof.
So the Warriors have Wiseman, who, I mean, you would assume is a good rim protector. That's what we heard coming out of college. Again, it'd be kind of hard to have him and Draymond on the floor at the same time. That gives you virtually no rim protection. And then if you shift over to Brooklyn, they have DeAndre Jordan, who is a rim protector, and he did play with, so they will have chemistry and good movement, so they should be able to do something there. But again, he's going to have to play the 4 there. He doesn't, he's going to play the backup 5, which is something we haven't really seen him do. Outside of DeAndre Jordan, they don't have a whole lot of rim protecting there either. Probably those 2 teams are the best fit. And then again, the Lakers, I just don't see it working at all.
You have any thoughts on B. Griff?
Yeah, I mean, it's really kind of crazy. You mentioned his 3-point shooting. Both his regular field goal percentage and his 3-point shooting this season are good for second worst in the NBA. So among all qualified players in the who have played, and he's not just playing. He's not been injured and has been trying to work his way back in. He's been playing about 30 minutes a game for the Detroit Pistons, who are just awful. If you guys haven't been paying attention, but. Again, second worst in the NBA in those 2 categories. He's averaging a career low 12.3 points per game. I don't think he's going to go somewhere and be impactful and be able to give double-digit points. I do think he has, some value. It kind of remains to be seen. It all depends on kind of where he goes and what kind of fit. I think the Heat might actually be not a bad fit for him if he can somehow manage to get over there with Bam Adebayo. You talk about a good rim protector and a great defensive presence, and they also have a young gun named Precious Achiuwa over there. Who they like to throw in their rotation and is
Gesundheit.
Thank you. Who's also like a great defensive presence, and they're just Miami's a good defensive team as a whole. So I think that could be one of the fits too. But how the mighty have fallen. Blake Griffin hasn't dunked in a game since 2019 either. Yeah, which is probably something you never thought you would say about Blake Griffin.
That's his staple. That's what he was known for.
The architect of Lob City has fallen. Unfortunately.
That architect, and as much as everyone wants to think it was the guy slamming the ball, it was Chris Paul.
Yeah,
it was literally just because of Chris Paul. It's crazy, and Chris Paul is an agitating player to watch, but when he's on your team and when he's doing things for your team, it's some of the most beautiful stuff you'll ever see on a basketball court.
He should have been a Laker. I don't want to hear it.
Oh, my God. David Stern, rest your soul, but gee.
It should have been a Laker.
Come on, man.
Things would have been different. Maybe LeBron, well, no, Kobe was still playing, but.
Darn right, baby.
Maybe that would have impacted LeBron to be here sooner.
Right, possibly.
Chris Paul stayed a Laker thereafter. That'd have been something different.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to pivot now to NFL transactions. So just to read off a couple here. These didn't drop today. These just kind of have been trickling in. Teams still don't have to, re-sign players right away.
Right.
There are some of these restricted free agents that have been getting, deals worked out. Some veterans have been being let go. So Big Ben obviously re-signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers, which we're all kind of like happy about because we know that Pittsburgh's offense will kind of lack a little bit. I mean, unless Ben comes in and surprises us.
Keep slinging, Ben. Keep slinging.
Keep throwing those 2 to 3 yard passes.
Is he going to go to the gym at all in the offseason? Because who knows? Yeah, I mean,
he did take from what I understand, he did take a pretty big pay cut to get them more cap space because that was something that they definitely needed, and I think they still need to if they want to keep their familiar faces. I think Juju still needs to get
Juju's a free agent. He did save them $15 million with that shaving off that they were able to do together.
And Jason Kelce has also signed with the Eagles. He's a 10-year plus veteran. Probably not giving the most production these days, but still a leader on that line. Some names that have been released. We have Golden Tate from the Giants. He's a vet, but he'll probably sign vet minimum somewhere else and can be productive. I know he, had Daniel Jones last year who was injured here and there and didn't put up, the best quality quarterback stats. Thomas Morstead, the punter from the New Orleans Saints, was released after 12 years, as well as Jared Cook. New Orleans probably still has to make a few more cuts. They also released tight end Josh Hill. So
they were over the cap crazy.
They were over the cap, and they have 6 tight ends on their roster or something like
yeah.
that. And then Kyle Rudolph, it's kind of a big one, got dropped from Minnesota. Some teams that can use the tight end. I mean, there's a lot of like flashy tight ends coming out of the draft this year. So maybe Kyle Rudolph is not as needed because of that, but he can bring I think a pretty decent presence to someone's roster this year.
Irv Smith, fantasy value to the moon. Go get Irv Smith.
That was the name I was thinking of.
Irv Smith Jr.
Especially with Kirk Cousins.
Kind of like Jimmy Grandpa hitting for the rocking chair. Cole Kmet should have a nice season next year as well.
Kmet season.
If you watched episode 1, you'll know Cole Kmet. And then Alex Smith was let go from Washington. So, I mean, they're looking to just revamp everything, not just the name of the team, but the atmosphere. So, I mean, to me, like, if I wasn't ready to, like, take the next step, which I don't know if they're going to take. I know they won their division and they made the playoffs and actually performed well in the playoffs, but I don't know if that they're ready next year. So maybe I would have kept Alex Smith one more year.
Heineke. Yeah, Heineke.
We dipped our finger in the Heineke beer and we tasted it. Not bad.
I mean, swinging and dealing in that playoff game, man.
It only sets him up to fail, though.
Exactly.
I mean,
true.
But we'll see. I mean, they do think probably that they have a pretty good starter there. So we'll see how they handle the draft this year. Obviously, we have probably 5 QBs in the first half of the first round coming in, but that's the rhyme and reason of the NFL draft these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're kind of still waiting for the shoe to drop on Russell Wilson, though. So rumors are that he wants to be traded, and if he works out his contract with Seattle and signs somewhere else, that he'd be looking at the New Orleans Saints, the Las Vegas Raiders, Chicago Bears, and Dallas Cowboys. I mean, the Saints have an opening right now. I have heard rumors that Derek Carr doesn't necessarily, potentially wants to move on. Chicago Bears, I mean, come on. You would take Russell Wilson over Mitch and anybody else you would roster. And then Dak Prescott still doesn't have a contract. So, I mean, these 4 teams do make some sense as far as landing spots. They almost seem too convenient, and the rumors almost seem kind of like too, I don't know, just convenient that they dropped. Like, it just to me doesn't seem like this is something that's going to happen. But what are you guys' thoughts about? You want to? Yeah,
I think Russell Wilson would be one of the, weirder instances of, seeing an NFL player in a different uniform. I think the hardest thing was getting used to Tom Brady in a Bucs uniform after 20 seasons in New England.
Right.
So seeing a guy like Russell Wilson, who's,
hold up, Brett Favre in a Minnesota Vikings.
I was gonna get there.
Worse than Tom Brady in Tampa Bay. What do you think?
What
was Tom Brady who was more weird to see, Tom Brady in a Tampa Bay or Brett Favre in a Minnesota Vikings?
How about Brett Favre in a New York Jets?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, we saw Brett Favre
New York
change.
Jets.
Hold on. What about Peyton Manning as a Denver Bronco?
You trying to give us PTSD, man?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, what are you doing?
How about Joe Montana?
Right.
I think it'd be kind of weird though. Seattle's been just unbelievably successful with Wilson under center. They haven't won fewer than 9 games since 2012,
and that's a tough division.
Yeah,
it's a very tough division, and they haven't made the playoffs every year, but he is the most over the first 7 seasons of his career. He has more than 75 wins, and he's only one of 5 quarterbacks in NFL history to accomplish that feat. And he's also on the same list as a guy that we wouldn't expect. I just wanted to get this in there. Over the last 10 seasons, there have been 4 quarterbacks to start at least 100 games and throw twice as many touchdowns as interceptions and also win double the amount of games they've lost. And those 4 quarterbacks are Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Alex Smith, which is a guy we just talked about, and Russell Wilson. So a very short list. Seattle, I don't think it would be in their best interest to get rid of him. But, crazier things have happened in today's NFL and especially more recently. So who knows?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. If I'm Seattle, I'm not answering the phone. It's going to have to be something like 3 first-round draft picks, like something like what we're expecting in the realm of Deshaun Watson getting. Now, when you look at Seattle as a team, right, it seems like this situation that's going on is Russell Wilson trying to push his agenda as to what he sees going forward with the offense on the Seahawks. And it feels like almost like he thinks that they're not allowing him to have a voice in terms of free agent signings and schematics, play calling, all that jazz. They did change their offensive coordinator this year. They went from Schottenheimer to Shane Waldron. Shane Waldron now, I mean, it's exciting and then it's a little nerve-wracking at the same time. He's never been an offensive coordinator in the NFL or college. He was the passing game coordinator for the LA Rams, as we all know, with Jared Goff. And I think continuing forward, just because Sean McVay loves to run the ball, they utilize heavy bootleg, short to medium passes that make sure that the ball gets out of the quarterback's hands. So they try to take as little sacks as possible. But I will say he might have to do like a little Michael Jackson take here and look in the mirror a little bit, check the guy in the mirror. Because, I mean, he did have last season, he was responsible for 14 of the 47 total sacks. That was second most in the league. His O-line isn't great, but it's not terrible. Last year, they were 9th in ESPN's pass block win rate at 62%. In his touchdown interception ratio in his first 8 games was 28-8. His last 8 was 12-5. I mean, bottom line, the O-line needs to be better and hopefully healthy because they did have a ton of injuries last season. Russell Wilson needs to be more efficient when he has opportunities to throw from the pocket, needs to understand when plays are over and throw the ball away. I know, we watch, especially us, because we watch Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen all the time. We like to see them scramble around, but the thing that those two guys do that goes unnoticed is they get rid of plays and they don't take sacks now. That was something Josh Allen hugely improved on going into last year. From the year before that, we saw him take those awful plays against, I think it was Houston in the first round of the playoffs the year prior.
Yeah.
So I think this is something where we need to the Seahawks are better with Russell Wilson. I don't think that's any question. And I think that they need to figure out a way to rectify this relationship because that defense has been terrible. That running game has not been great. And those are two things that Pete Carroll supposedly hangs his hat on. And if there's no Russell Wilson over the last few seasons, without the Legion of Boom, this team hasn't been very effective and really hasn't won a whole lot of ball games like they want to. You can win games in the regular season, but when you're looking at Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson and those talent you have around him, you're expecting to win playoff games. So I think they'd all tell you that same thing.
So he's under contract through the 2023 season. 2024, he'd become an unrestricted free agent at the age of 36. So I think he's probably thinking, and maybe this is why some of the news dropped, because maybe he's thinking like, what's next for me? And like, obviously this guy, he spends $1 million a year just on his like body regimen, just to make sure like he is like, perfectly capable to just keep going for as long as possible.
Right. Doesn't this kind of feel like an Aaron Rodgers type of thing too, a little bit? You know how Aaron
like shooting the franchise a little bit.
Not even more of like, hey, like you went in the first round last year if you're Aaron Rodgers and you drafted Jordan Love. I just made it to the NFC Championship game when they lost to the Bucks, and not that he didn't have enough talent around him, but what did that first round pick do for you?
Yeah, nothing.
I'm still here for at least 4 years. Aaron Rodgers is still going to be a great quarterback for the next 4 years. Russell Wilson may very well be looking at what happened with Aaron Rodgers and how, he's taking the temperature of the Green Bay Packers front office and ownership to see how they'd respond if he decided to be a little more vocal and be a little more determined in making sure that the things that he wants to see happen on the football field are happening. And, seeing that right after the game, Russell Wilson very well may say, hey, look, man, I'm going to pull kind of the same thing and make sure that the stuff that I'm saying and the stuff that I'm talking about is heard, and not only heard, but acted on. I mean, again, I know we're going off a little bit here, but look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady went to Tampa Bay, and Bruce Arians was like, no, I am not bringing in Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown was a Buccaneer 3 weeks later. I mean, and that's what you have to do. You have to be able to be flexible, both as a player and as ownership. It's people have this misconception that when we're talking about professional sports, that it's like when you're a kid and everyone just listens to the coach because the coach is always right. This is a partnership. This is something that you have to be 100% ingrained on. These are not just you learning how to play the game now. This is people's careers. So I just feel like Russell Wilson's trying to grab his career a little more and take more control of it in terms of what he sees on the field.
Oh yeah, for
Sorry,
sure.
Went on a tangent.
He's on the next week, the 12th. He'll secure his contract for the season, which is another $19 million. So So he'll be yeah. I mean, this guy's he gets paid well, but I mean, he could also potentially look at like restructuring a deal if he does move to somewhere else. Maybe working out a longer contract, some more money coming in.
Right.
Russell Wilson being dealt will definitely help make my case for my DK Metcalf dud prediction.
Oh yeah.
So not that I'm rooting for it, but I mean, I did make a prediction. So work with me, Seattle.
100%.
I'm just kidding.
Do we even know the Seattle Seahawks backup quarterback?
Bro, it's Hundley, isn't it?
No, not Brett Hundley. It's
checking it right now.
What's his name?
It's another athletic guy.
I forget his name. He's a dual.
Geno Smith, Alex Mago, and Danny Etling.
Yeah.
Good luck, Seattle.
Yeah, seriously. The Geno Smith experience.
I mean, holy
on the opposite coast, they had it in New York.
Yeah, so they're not necessarily. They would probably, like, if they're trading him, are looking maybe for a quarterback or draft position to get a quarterback.
I mean, I figure, if he gets traded to the Raiders, you need to get Derek Carr back in that deal. Mm-hmm. If he gets traded to the Saints, I suppose you try to get Jameis. I mean, the worst thing in the world. That might be more detrimental to your DK Metcalf take if they get Jameis.
Chucked it down there.
Just 50 times a game, baby. Yeah. 5 interceptions. We're still toting. We're ready to go. We're letting it rip.
No Jameis. Get that energy out of here, Johnny. Get it out of here.
All right. So we're gonna pivot to basketball now. We got Space Jam 2 coming out soon. Ryan Coogler directing this, so I think we all kind of love Ryan Coogler around this table. Mm-hmm. So LeBron James is, I think he was approached to do Space Jam 2 like probably a decade ago.
Oh yeah,
and we had heard rumors like a while ago that years ago that he was going to be starring in it, but I think he told them no. Let's wait. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so LeBron James will be playing a heightened version of himself with a fictional family. His main conflict in the movie is he can't connect with his son, so his son's really into like creating video games mm-hmm. and maybe coding and whatnot.
Right.
And so his son catches the attention of this like CGI humanoid who's going to be played by Don Cheadle, mm-hmm. and Don Cheadle, I guess, is the antagonist here, and he traps them into this virtual reality setting, and we're calling that the Warner 3000 Entertainment Serververse, which is, I guess, we're looking at you, Marvel.
The
multiverse.
Multiverse, yeah.
And
branding.
And here's what's going to probably make it nostalgic and make everybody just go, like, giggly and crazy. The Looney Tunes will be back, and they, in order to escape the digital world, they'll have to beat the formidable Goon Squad. So,
Goon Squad,
mm-hmm.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, what do you guys think about Space Jam 2? I know it's we had a lot of fun with the first Space Jam. I know there will be several current NBA players that will be making cameos.
Right. I think they said even some WNBA players, like they're being super inclusive with mm-hmm. this.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Really cool. Yeah, the color looks great. And I know that's kind of a weird way to start off, but the uniforms look fantastic. Well, I don't know if we have a picture. I think Asa might have a picture.
We'll show that right here on the screen.
The uniforms look great. I love the color scheme. Oh, look at that. I mean, that's mm-hmm. as realistic as it gets right there. I mean, holy Toledo.
I can't remember whose jersey has this, like that. Current NBA team has that. I think someone has like a similar like.
Yeah, the gradient. It's the Heat. The Heat have a gradient jersey right now.
Theirs is like terrible. The blue and pink one, the Vice City one.
The Vice City ones from last year were so much better.
They were.
But how is LeBron going to play a more heightened LeBron? Is that even possible? Can you even get a more heightened LeBron on a basketball court? He's just going to be a better free throw shooter. Is what it's going
to be.
You watch that, Tony O's.
He definitely.
Jiminy.
He definitely is going to have to step up his game a little bit. But, I mean, to be a heightened version of yourself at 36 to lead your team in, like, points, assists, and rebounds.
Yeah,
like,
he's the oldest player in NBA history right now to be leading his team in points, rebounds, and assists at the All-Star break. Like, everything you can possibly think of.
When we come back to the screen right now, I want everybody to do their best Tweety Bird mug to the camera.
Ace of Wings.
I think you win. I don't really know how to do a Tweety Bird mug.
I mean, it's hard to beat Tweety Bird mug right there.
Ace of One. Okay, so my other question was, I mean, I don't know if everyone remembers because I sure as heck remember, but one of the best parts about the old Space Jam was the song.
Yeah,
they had the best song for a movie I've ever heard. And I don't know about this DMCA stuff, so I probably not going to hum it or anything. And trust, I have the voice of an angel, as everyone will tend to learn. But that song was fantastic. They got to do something like big time, whether that be I don't know who they have for music or whatever. But
I'm not sure. I don't know how you follow up a song like that. So you might be kind of like grasping at straws a little bit there, trying to maybe temper your expectations a little bit, trying to find thinking they're going to make a song better than that. I don't know if this has any interest, but he's going to be wearing number 6 in the movie. I don't know if you guys saw that. I'm not sure what the relevance of that is. Maybe Michael Jordan was kind of like, didn't want him wearing number 23.
What, we're going to see a Michael Jordan cameo?
No. See that I thought we were. We're not going to see Michael Jordan. He apparently, and I couldn't figure out who he wanted. I don't think they ever reported it, but apparently he wanted somebody other than LeBron James to be in the sequel. Was advocating for it a while, maybe a decade ago.
I found the composer of the film will be Hans Zimmer.
Ooh,
so Hans Zimmer's pretty dope.
He's great. Hans Zimmer's great.
And Chris Bowers was announced to be joining Zimmer as another composer for the film. So it maybe looks like this Chris Bowers will be taking more of a front seat to Hans Zimmer now. Yeah, I mean, but either way, Chris Bowers. Let me see if I can give you guys some discography real quick.
Yeah. And just real quick, of course, Michael Jordan doesn't want LeBron to play the main character in Space Jam. He's already beaten him in everything on the court. Why would you want him to take his spot in Space Jam?
It seems the more and more I see about it, it seems just like LeBron kind of wanted to distance himself from being from the Michael Jordan comparisons by wearing number 6.
I mean, he wore 6 in Miami, didn't he?
Yeah. But I guess he didn't want it to be like a true I guess reprise of his role, and wanted to be a very separate thing. So I guess number 6 is that's why number 6 made its way into the movie and not 23.
So Bowers has worked on a lot of recent stuff. Looks like Bridgerton, a couple years ago, When They See Us on Netflix. There's a little mini series there. So maybe not as decorated as Hans Zimmer, but he has done some documentaries too. One of those being Kobe Bryant's Muse.
Oh,
so yeah, I mean, I think we're all pretty sure that Space Jam 2 will be a great film to watch. I think they're going to obviously make it fun for the whole family and probably play the nostalgia factor.
Mm-hmm. And this isn't LeBron's first rodeo. Like, he's been an executive producer. I mean, that show, The Wall on NBC, is great. If anybody hasn't seen it, it's one of my favorite game shows. That's a great show. He's the executive producer there. Mm-hmm. He did have that movie with Amy Schumer, right? Mm-hmm. That comedian, Amy Schumer, I think was her name.
He had a minor role in that movie Trainwreck, I think it was.
It was Trainwreck, right? Right. Yeah. And he had a minor role, and he executive produced it.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah. So, anything LeBron has his hand in, sign me up for it. I mean, Blaze Pizza. I love Blaze Pizza. He always got my
He said Blaze Pizza. Right. Yeah, one of the bigger names, too, that you mentioned, the female inclusion, Diana Taurasi is going to be in that Space Jam film.
Right.
Along with Kyrie Irving is rumored to be in it, and Damian Lillard. So.
Oh, maybe Dame Dollar makes a track, bro.
Maybe. That would be cool.
Yeah, got to be clean, though. You know what I'm saying? You can't be cussing kids on Space Jam, too. But
so Jay's right on The Wall. He is also producing Space Jam: A New Legacy, so they got him on there for that too.
Nice.
But he actually has 38 producer credits to his name so far. So it's not like it's his first rodeo.
No, he's been around the block now.
Apparently, NBA 2K20 had him as an executive producer a couple years ago. So
nice.
Again, not just a 36-year-old basketball player anymore.
No, everyone said LeBron was coming here to retire and make movies, and then he just so happened to win a championship too while he was at it. Everyone was like, "Oh, he's coming here to retire, and coming to Los Angeles to retire," and wins a championship just because he's amazing.
And if you guys did watch Smallfoot, he played Gwanji on Smallfoot, animated movie that came out a couple years ago. And he played himself in Trainwreck.
Right.
this is to say, like, back in the day, you didn't produce, and play basketball. You just played basketball. So spending time, he's a family man. He's, has his foot in some Hollywood right now too. So
absolutely.
I mean, that's a lot for, me to just even think about. So good on him for that.
I mean, we could gush over LeBron all day. I can sit here and gush over LeBron all day.
We don't want to do that. Not with you.
All right, so we're going to pivot to the fantasy section of our show now. So this week we're going to do buy or sell for rookies. We kind of talked about rookies the first two shows, so I figured, you know what? Every rookie from last season that had kind of like a little bit of play, we're going to just talk about. We're going to all take a little turn real quick, buying and selling. J and A both did a lot of like research and thought processes, maybe not on like every one of them, but for me, it's more of like a spiritual choosing whether I'm going to buy or sell. Just how I thought about that player last year.
Absolutely.
Okay, so our first name on the board is Joe Burrow. So real quick, Joe Burrow played 10 games last year. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he got he will miss some time to start this season after tearing his ACL.
ACL and MCL.
And MCL.
Mm-hmm.
Double
whammy.
Maybe right there, yeah. In 10 games, he had 268 yards passing, so a good for 268 a game. 16 TDs, 3 of us were rushing. He did put himself on the line a lot. Like there were some highlights of him last year just flailing at the goal line and just getting smashed.
Yeah, get in there.
9 turnovers, 5 of those were interceptions, 4 fumbles, and the one that stood out to me in taking at least 3 sacks a game. So he had 32 sacks, which is just awful. So Cincinnati needs to protect their like Joe Burrow because the kid plays with heart. He just doesn't play with the offensive line.
Right. Yeah.
So optimistically speaking, I would buy him for next year. I know you're not going to get the full season out of him, but I feel like he is so low on the totem pole as far as like what people are going to expect out of him, especially like he will be missing time and his numbers weren't the best, but I would be comfortable playing him when you get like in the middle of the season where like the bye weeks start adding up and next year might be a 17-week schedule or the rumors are. So I would take a flyer on him. I would be comfortable. Like if I took like, if I have like an Aaron Rodgers on my team and I would back him up with Joe Burrow, like without much thought. Right. All right. What do you think, Jay?
Yeah. So I see where you're coming from. But when I went and looked at his projections, he's actually projecting a lot higher than I would have originally thought. He's currently a quarterback 12 on Fantasy Pros. That's in front of people like Matt Stafford, Matt Ryan, Jalen Hurts, and Kirk Cousins. I would take all 4 of those quarterbacks above him. He did play with an awful O-line, as you said. They were the 30th ranked O-line on PFF, which is not what you want to be having when you have a rookie quarterback. You did mention about him taking hits as well. He took 42 last season in only the 10 games and like a half that he played, which is not very good.
He was getting hit every game.
Right. But again, he was a young quarterback, rookie. He has to learn to get rid of the ball. Zach Taylor was a new coach as well. So a lot of new going on in Cincinnati after 11 years of Marvin Lewis and Andy Dalton just going 9-7, making the wild card and losing. So I guess anything's better than that for Cincinnati. He averaged 17.8 fantasy points per game last year when he started, which was good for QB 16 before his injury. But I'm just looking at it in totality. He's in a good division, in a poor O-line. He's got young weapons off a bad injury. He says he's going to be ready for the beginning of the season. I just, at the current rankings at QB 12, I'd much rather take at least 4 other guys in front of him. So at that current projection, I have to sell, unfortunately.
Yeah, that ranking came a little by surprise too when you were talking about it yesterday. He finished the season with a 75.1 overall grade from PFF. And like you just mentioned, he was the 16th most valuable quarterback in the NFL last season. In only 10 games, though, he has solid complementary pieces. I think Joe Mixon, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd are all like, solid players. I think what they're really going to try to do is they selected Jonah Williams a year ago, a tackle out of Alabama. And right now, Jonah Williams is actually playing out of position by necessity. So they're really looking at a guy that we'll probably talk on in the show later at some point, Penei Sewell, who's a true left tackle out of Oregon, to then move Jonah Williams to his natural right tackle position and really anchor the offensive line for Joe Burrow, and hopefully, get him to understand to keep himself in the pocket a little more. So we're not trying to play hero ball and turning, wondering 10 years later, like Russell Wilson, wondering if he's going to get the protection that he thinks he needs.
Right.
But I am selling as well here, and it's mainly because like Johnny touched on the division. I don't have faith in the defense. Unfortunately, they don't have really a solid replacement yet for Carlos Dunlap. And you saw the impact. If you watched NFL last season, you saw the impact he had from like week 9 when he went over to Seattle to what that defense turned into. I don't know what he did to Seattle's offense, but he definitely improved their defense for the second half of the season.
He wasn't able to do anything. That's why he plays defense.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think he's competing with a lot of better teams, and I think he can be really good. It's just going to take a little time and a little bit of patience from the Bengals organization.
I mean, again, you have a second.
This is what Joe Burrow thinks about your guys'
takes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
he's like, I'm good. I got.
You'll have plenty of time to do it in the offseason, buddy.
You're gonna have a huge year 2 leap, like Lamar and like Josh Allen, just ball.
Possibly.
I mean, but then that's what I'm saying. So you look at it, and Joe Burrow's a second-year quarterback. T. Higgins is a second-year wide receiver. You're relying on a second-year right tackle. You're relying on a rookie left tackle if you draft Penei Sewell. There's just so many, young pieces.
You're probably losing AJ Green, which didn't really matter at last year anyway.
Yeah,
but.
I mean, he played. I mean,
he played.
At least AJ Green was on the field last year. That was something you couldn't say for the last 4. I mean,
he. Him and Joe Mixon didn't get a lot of play together too.
Right.
Joe Mixon was injured.
A little bit as well coming in. Yeah.
Well, so that'll pivot. We'll just pivot to his teammate then, T. Higgins.
Okay.
So last year he played 15 games. He did have a couple of injuries down the stretch, so he did play through a little bit. Not a bad season for him. He had 67 catches on 108 targets, which was good for 908 yards. So, I mean, he was getting some volume play as far as yards go, and with 6 TDs and 1 fumble. And so I think we're all on unison on this one, but I'm buying T. Higgins. I had him as a bench player last year, started him a couple of games. He was a serviceable sub for me. I didn't have anything wrong with him playing matchups wise. I liked what I saw. He didn't have the blowout games I think we saw from Justin Jefferson, where you could just drop your jaw at him. But I mean, for me, I think he had a pretty good first season. He should be no reason for him to take a step back.
Right.
So what do you guys think?
I mean, like you, he was a mainstay on my fantasy roster all season. I played in a league with 14 teams, so it was pretty deep. So he wasn't just riding my bench. He was a regular starter for me. And from, the weeks that he played with Burrow, he was, getting, like you said, he wasn't breaking the slate or anything or amassing 30 points. I mean, he only had one game last year where he had multiple touchdowns and only 3 with 100 yards receiving, but he had 14 out of the 16 games he played. He was over double-digit points. So for me, in a 14-team league that deep, he was great to roster and great to start.
Wide receiver 2 for you can easily put him in the wide receiver 2 and not have to worry about him.
100%. And he's a big physical receiver. He's
6'4".
fast. He's great in the air. He's got good body control. Those of you who were able to watch really saw him shine a little bit. Throughout last season, he barely finished with just under 1,000 receiving yards. So I think we'll see an uptick in that. And the 109 targets, 109, you said? 108 targets. That is definitely encouraging, even with Burrow being out for the latter half of the season. So I'm buying on T. Higgins.
And he's 22.
And he's 22 years old. So very, very young. They got a young core. Just be patient, Cincinnati. I think you guys, they're on a good track, but you're also in a tough division. So stay patient and stay on course.
Yeah, he did see some low target share, especially in the beginning of the year. And then towards the end of the year, once, Joe Burrow started going out, the last game, I think he only had 1 target. So probably just trying to save him from injury there. Currently, he's being ranked as the 31st wide receiver on Fantasy Pros. He finished 28th last year in PPR formats. So, and that's with Joe Burrow getting hurt 10.5 games in. I can only see him doing better than that. So I think I'm buying him finishing above wide receiver 31. I'd buy him being a starting wide receiver on your fantasy team, especially in 10-team leagues, 12-team leagues, more than so. And as Andrew mentioned, 14-team leagues, it's pretty much a no-brainer if you can get him. We kind of touched on AJ Green leaving. Not that, again, we talked about it. Not that AJ Green is an unbelievable player or anything anymore like he used to be. You know, he's gone through several injuries, but those are just targets that get taken away. And any targets that get taken away have to be redistributed somewhere.
Yeah.
And when you're the number one wide receiver on a team, which he will be next year, those targets are more than likely going to get spread out to yourself. So
his competition there is Tyler Boyd,
right,
Auden Tate, John Ross III, who does not want to be there.
No.
And the other Mike Thomas.
Right.
Auden Tate had, I think, a couple games out of nowhere last year.
Right.
But Tyler Boyd's okay.
He's out of the slot mostly.
Yeah.
So Tyler Boyd plays a lot out of the slot. Something I'd like to see with T. Higgins, he's 6'4", is to put him a little more in the slot. We started doing this a little more in the NFL now, where we're allowing bigger wide receivers to come into the slot and take advantage of their matchups against these really tiny slot corners. And if these outside corners who want to travel into the slot, go ahead.
Well, T. Higgins took a step back when Brandon Allen and Ryan Finley played last year. So
of course.
I think him, you can draft him, keep him on your roster, even if you're not starting him at first. I think he's going to pay dividends by season's end because Joe Burrow will be back hopefully at the beginning of the season too.
Right.
So right on.
That's what he said on Colin Cowherd just last thing. He did say that on Colin Cowherd's show the other day. He expects to be back. He said he may even be back for a little bit of the mini camp before the preseason and then play week 1. So
gotcha.
That's a pretty optimistic timeline. Coming from someone who did the exact same thing. I tore my ACL and my MCL in my left knee, and I didn't walk for 2.5. Granted, I'm not Joe Burrow or anything, but it did take me about a full calendar year to get to a place where I was ready to go out and do athletic things again. So
right on. So we're turn the page to Brandon Aiyuk. So Brandon Aiyuk played 16 games last year for 96 targets. So not as many as maybe some of these other names on this list you'll see. He caught 60 of those 96 targets, 748 yards, receiving, 7 touchdowns. 2 of those were rushing. He was utilized a little bit in the run game too. Good to know that he had 0 turnovers. The 49ers looked at him a lot late at the season. So I will buy him if he is the centerpiece of the wide receiver lineup. I know with Deebo Samuel coming back, he might not be. I would just buy him when I know Deebo's out, 100%. I would start him without hesitation.
Right.
And I think he will probably not be he'll probably be drafted because of his his stats that he put up last year. But I think he probably might be a drop candidate at some points of the season. Yeah. So I think you can potentially store him and kind of wait for Deebo to see if Deebo plays or not. But he had some nice games when Deebo was out, and I think two of you will probably talk on that. But I would buy, but there's a little bit of coercion that has to happen before that.
Absolutely.
Before that I do.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely saw inflated amount of volume last year with the amount of injuries that we saw. I mean, and at multiple positions for the Niners, losing Jimmy Garoppolo, losing Raheem Mostert for a good amount of time, then losing Tevin Coleman for a good amount of time. George Kittle barely played. And then Ace has already mentioned on Deebo Samuel. I'm going to sell Brandon Aiyuk. Again, this is just going based off the rankings and where they're being ranked right now. Doing my research, again, he's 27th on Fantasy Pros for wide receivers. He's ahead of Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel is the number 1 wide receiver on the San Francisco 49ers. Yeah. Kyle Shanahan made that known last year. When Deebo Samuel went out, he mentioned how big of a loss that is. And again, it's coach speak. He's going to mention how big of a loss any player is. But after one of his huge games, Deebo Samuel was ruled out just a few days before the game. I think he had 119 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Kyle Shanahan came out after the game and was like, yeah, we just pretty much put Brandon Aiyuk in the spot we would have had Deebo Samuel. So wherever they would have had Deebo Samuel, they were manufacturing stuff for Deebo. They just put Brandon Aiyuk in there, and Brandon Aiyuk, I mean, for his credit, given every opportunity, was able to perform. Again, just at wide receiver 27, he's ahead of Deebo, as I mentioned. He's ahead of Will Fuller. Granted, I don't know who the heck's throwing the ball in Houston right now, but I'll take Will Fuller. He's ahead of a guy we already mentioned in T. Higgins, who I think is going to be a better fantasy wide receiver going into next year. Cortland Sutton is a name who last year didn't produce all that well either, but I think is an extraordinary talent, and I think he's going to be better than him. He's above him. And then lastly is Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson last year with Teddy Bridgewater was great. You have that connection there with gosh, why am I blanking on the coach's name for the Panthers?
Matt
Rule when he had him over at in Baylor. So yeah, huge spot for Robbie Anderson, and I can't see Brandon Aiyuk outperforming wide receiver 27, so I'll be selling him going into next year.
Okay, I mean, in a three wide receiver league, he would probably be for sure. He'd be rostered in most of them, but yeah, in a two, like he might be bubble watch the whole year.
I was kind of sitting on selling as well, but I think I'm actually going to buy Brandon Aiyuk. And there's a couple reasons why.
Breaking news, this just in.
A couple reasons why, mostly being, Deebo. Ideally, you would say a guy like Deebo Samuel, he's the number one receiver on the depth chart. For a normal NFL team, you would say, okay, well, he's going to have to play second fiddle to this number one receiver. But we watch the 49ers, and those of you who do watch as well, they're not a traditional just line up your receiver and kind of pass the ball kind of team. Deebo Samuel's the kind of guy that you can use in the slot. They could use out of the backfield. And I think seeing what they got out of Brandon Aiyuk last year in terms of his ability to run in the open field and create separation, I think they're going to maybe want to use him more on the outside and kind of be able to use play into their own hand and create more space for Deebo Samuel to operate and kind of use them almost at the same time to complement each other. He finished last season as wide receiver 38, as Johnny mentioned, in total points in PPR leagues, but his per game averages would have put him at wide receiver 18. He averaged 15.5 points per game in the games that he played. And between weeks 8 through 16 in the 5 games he did play, he never finished with less than 17.5 points, and he averaged almost 12.5 targets a game. And granted, no Deebo Samuel, but I think getting Jimmy G back, I think getting, just healthy all around throughout the franchise, their running back room, it's kind of hard to predict if they're going to be healthy because we keep saying Raheem Mostert's going to be healthy in 2020. Raheem Mostert's going to be healthy in 2019. And then, halfway through the season, injury. And then we're just kind of filling in people. And, we get the Matt Breidas, we get the Tevin Coleman's. And so I'm not really sure what to make of their running back room. So I'm actually going to buy on Brandon Aiyuk because I think they really like what they saw. And he will be able to, I just feel like he's going to get those opportunities. So I went from selling to buying just kind of based on how I think San Francisco is going to operate their offense.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they have room to play him in multiple facets, and if they are an injury-ridden team like they were last year, then he's going to have opportunities.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to head on over to Pittsburgh now and talk about the wide receiver 3 for them last year, Chase Claypool, rookie, came in, and I mean he produced 16 games, so he was viable for the whole season.
Absolutely.
109 targets, 62 catches. He did have a couple drops here and there, as he probably was catching that from Deontay.
Yeah.
62 catches for 873 yards and 11 touchdowns. So he was kind of the bell of the ball in some weeks where I think he had multiple touchdowns.
Yeah.
And if you started him, you probably won that week because he probably was just projected for single digits at some points of the season.
Right.
Two of his 11 touchdowns were rushing, so they did use him near the goal line. If I do remember some of those plays, and then he had one fumble.
Right.
I mean, for me, I just going to stick to, if I'm selling Big Ben, I'm selling his wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I wouldn't play him, but I wouldn't go out and draft him high. Last year he was, he was probably not even drafted or drafted towards the end of the draft. So I would just choose for a more reliable wide receiver option. If you guys list a couple, I might give you a thumbs up if I would take them over. But yeah, I mean, I just be selling, and it's not based on talent. It's just based on situation, and I didn't love the way he acted. I don't know him that well, but he had a couple of instances in the games where he's I think he tried to slap Malcolm Butler in the face.
He did the first down marker above his head because he was shorter or something like that. Yeah.
I don't know. I think maybe what we'll see out of him this year is because they did get embarrassed going 11-0 and then getting just walloped by the Browns in the playoffs. So hopefully he comes in with a little bit more humility and maybe, because he has the talent. I mean, he has the size, he has the speed. So
absolutely.
So
I'm buying him. The Steelers can't and just choose not to run the football. That was kind of their MO all of last year. It doesn't sound like they're bringing James Conner back. I don't think it really matters, to be honest. I just don't think they're capable of running the football right now. Their O-line is lacking, especially in that run game that we've been talking about.
Here's the clip.
Oh, here it goes. Yep. Oh, yeah. Right in the face. That's it. Yep. I mean, he is huge. Jesus Christ, he's huge.
6'4".
Big Ben did finish third last season in pass attempts with 608. That was only in 15 games. So in 16 games, pass attempts per game, he'd be wiping the field.
Are you getting the most of the Claypool in the short game though? I don't know. I don't know if I do it. I don't instantly think big wide receiver. Oh, let me throw it to him for 2-3 yards every play.
And I understand. I get what you're saying, but when you have 40 pass attempts a game and you have Juju Smith-Schuster possibly not being back, they got to go somewhere, right? And I mean, he's throwing to Deontay Johnson 12 times a game. That's still 28 more attempts.
He'll give a few to James Washington.
James Washington does get a few. We saw the touchdown scoring capability that he has, which is huge in fantasy. I mean, one touch gets you 6 points if you can go ahead and get the ball in the end zone, not including the yak. And if you're in PPR, again, I'm going to buy him based on the rankings, right? He's going as wide receiver 38 right now. He finished as wide receiver 23 last year. Granted, that was with 11 touchdowns. Do I think he's going to score 11 touchdowns next year? No, but do I think he can score 8? Sure. And that would probably put him at wide receiver 25, especially if he gets a little more volume overall. So at wide receiver 38, according to Fantasy Pros, that's just way too low and somebody I'd be willing to buy, again, in terms of that ranking. I mean, if he's wide receiver 38, that means he's fringe wide receiver 4, fringe wide receiver 3, almost wide receiver 4. No, I definitely think that he's going to be able to finish above that. So I'd be buying.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to be selling here on Claypool. And there are a lot of reasons to buy him. We mentioned his size, speed, and his build, and kind of what Pittsburgh wants to do offensively and getting the ball downfield. At the back end of last season, I really saw what I wanted to see out of Big Ben, but his age is not going to lend me to think that he's going to continue this. At the end of last year, he increased his. They were a short game. A short passing game team. He increased his yards per attempt from 6 yards to 8 over the last 3 weeks. I don't know if he's going to be able to continue that. And I think in order for Claypool to be successful, he's going to have to. And I think maybe the move to I'm not too sure yet what they're going to do with that extra cap space now. Maybe they try and get Juju back now that Big Ben took that little pay cut, and then that could affect Claypool's not really playing time, I guess to say, but target share. He was boosted, like we said, that massive 4-touchdown. He had a massive 4-touchdown game against Philly, 11 catches for a $110. Another one of my concerns was that was his only 100-yard receiving game the entire regular season. He had one in the playoffs against Cleveland, but they were kind of playing from behind, and just everybody saw the ball. Deontay Johnson balled.
I think all three of them had 100 yards. Juju, Claypool, and Deontay all had over 100 yards.
And that's your best case scenario, right?
Yeah. They have him projected right now as his average draft position at 6.8, so he would be drafted in the 6th round at pick 8. So, I mean, that kind of seems I don't know. For me, it seems kind of like where he would be. That's I'm okay with that. I'm not a big Claypool fan just because, if they do try to keep that short passing game, I think Deontay Johnson and guys like Juju, if they bring him back, are just going to, be able to do that better than he can. So I'm selling Chase Claypool for next season. I think a change at quarterback and maybe we'll do him some good. I know replacing Big Ben is not an easy task. He's one of only 5 quarterbacks in NFL history to have 60,000 passing yards with a single franchise. So we got to give credit where it's due, but I think the time has kind of gone on Big Ben. And in order for the Steelers to get the max they can out of Claypool, that there's eventually going to have to be a change.
You have someone to change to, though,
Yeah, that's the big worry, and that's why again I'm selling on him. And
Yeah, I mean, you could think of like if a perfect storm happens where Roethlisberger is out and then Dwayne Haskins has to start. Like, I mean, I don't know. Dwayne Haskins, I think, if I remember correctly, last year, like, I think he just struggled to get the number one receiver in Washington. McLaurin, yeah, he struggled to get McLaurin the ball in some games. I was like, throw it to your best receiver.
Yeah.
Throw it to your best receiver.
Throw it his way, in his direction.
Yeah. So I mean, there could be a scenario. Big Ben's 39, so this is his last season, as he's kind of said. So
the best case scenario for the Pittsburgh Steelers would have been to trade for Deshaun Watson, even though I know I don't want that. I don't want them having Deshaun Watson. But give up everything you have to for Deshaun Watson. Tell Big Ben to go retire, and I mean, that's enough. We're good. Thank you very much. You did your service. You're an amazing quarterback. You won for us.
Be in the Ring of Honor one day. Get out of here.
Let's go. Yellow. Get out. Okay. And then sign J.J. Watt. That would have been, if I was Pittsburgh, that would have been 1, 2, and 3, what I tried to do, and they've done none of them so far, so I'm 0 for 3, but
that's okay, buddy. That's why you're not in the front office. You're here with us recording this show.
Well, that's why I need to be in the front office.
Oh, okay. See, forward thinking. I like it.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're going on to CeeDee Lamb. In 16 games last year, he had 111 targets. Another volume target hoarder right here. 74 catches, 935 yards, 6 TDs, 1 rushing. He did fumble once, and he had like a 42-yard kickoff return touchdown. That was an onside kick that he brought to the house. Just kind of open running field. Make it quick for me. I'd buy CeeDee Lamb if Dak Prescott's back. Dak Prescott was probably going to be a 5,000-yard receiver last year. Oh, yeah. CeeDee Lamb excelled with him in the beginning of the season. I don't see any reason why that wouldn't happen again. I don't really see Dak going anywhere else besides Dallas, so I will buy him, assuming Dak is there. But I do think Dak will be back. That's my point of view on him.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to buy him too. I keep going to Fantasy Pros. Let me know. Wide receiver 25 currently. Last year, he finished as wide receiver 22. Again, that's without Dak for as long as he was out. The thing about CeeDee Lamb that I really like, especially in terms of watching Dak Prescott play, Dak Prescott doesn't have the biggest of arms. The throws that he struggles with are the throws that are outside the numbers, where he has to really get a lot of gas on it, really use a lot of arm strength. CeeDee Lamb is a slot receiver. He does not play outside very much. I think it was at an 80% clip, or maybe even a little bit above that. He was playing in the slot. He has a great feel for defenses, especially zones. He's really good, and he did this in college a lot. He's able to get behind the linebackers, in front of the safeties, to find that nice point in the middle of the field right there in the hashes, and that's where Dak Prescott really loves to live. That's why people were really expecting Blake Jarwin to have a huge season last year before he went out, because Dak loves to work the middle of the field. And a lot of quarterbacks that don't have, the necessary arm strength, or that aren't super gifted, like Patrick and Josh, where they just go out there and sidearm sling 25 yards to the sideline, have to work the middle of the field. And that's really where CeeDee Lamb makes his money. So I just think he was really great after the catch. He's a guy that can get you yak. We've seen him do a little bit in the return game already. Not that you're going to bank on that for fantasy, because you don't get return yardage, but any explosiveness that you can see from a rookie, especially on a depleted offense like they had last year, coming into a more revitalized offense, second year in the Mike McCarthy system. I can see CeeDee Lamb. Again, I'm buying him in terms of where he's being ranked. He's being ranked 25. I think that's a little too low. Amari Cooper is being ranked above him, which I guess is okay, but I would probably personally play CeeDee Lamb over him. He's only about 7 spots above.
That's crazy, because Amari Cooper's 27, so he's still fairly young.
Right.
They do have an out after this season, though, for Dallas. So,
right.
They would have to buy him out, but, I don't know. I think if they bought him out next season, they'd take a $12 million hit on their cap, which I might do. If Mark Cooper isn't as performing as well.
Well, they have Michael Gallup on the outside, who's great as well. Yeah. And if you look at Amari Cooper, he's being paid like a top 5 wide receiver.
Cedric Wilson, they played a little bit, I think.
He's dynamic. He's a dynamic young guy that they have.
So they have some backup.
But top 5 right now. He's being paid for.
As Blake Jarwin was out the whole season.
He's not.
Dallas is just loaded with talent, receiving talent, and I think that's even more imperative why they should bring Dak back, and then that would lead to CeeDee Lamb being, I'm going to buy CeeDee Lamb, and one of the reasons I'm going to buy CeeDee Lamb is like what you said about him being in the slot, and I heard it every Sunday with all these rookie quarterbacks. The amount of rookie quarterbacks we see now, You get to watch them, on regular TV, or you get to see them everywhere. And one of the things that Johnny always talks about is getting them easy completions. And, Dak Prescott is not a rookie quarterback, but getting your quarterback easy completions and getting them in a good rhythm goes a really long way to getting your offense started and getting you and getting a good feel for how the game's going to go, and really starting to understand how you want to attack the other team's defense. And I think CeeDee Lamb is perfect for that. Even without Dak Prescott, the 111 targets last year are just absurd. When you have guys like Andy Dalton in there trying to get him the football, and a depleted offensive line. His run after the catch ability is insane. He's just kind of a do-it-all guy. He can go deep, but really where he's gonna make his bread and butter is in the slot. So I'm buying CeeDee Lamb. The slot is kind of like the eye candy now for receivers, in my opinion, for fantasy purposes, especially in PPR. You want a lot of catches and you want players who can get yak, and Absolutely. He fits the bill there. Yeah. So again, buying CeeDee Lamb.
That conversion rate on those throws is just a lot higher than it is when you're going outside. The ball doesn't have to travel as far. It's harder to press when you're in the slot because, most of the time when you have a receiver in the slot, whether you bring them in motion or you just line them up there, they're off the line of scrimmage. So it's kind of hard to press when your receiver's a yard and a half, almost 2 yards off the line of scrimmage. Especially with speedy guys like CeeDee Lamb, their release points are really great. Doesn't allow the cornerback to jam, which is why I don't know why more teams don't do motion pre-snap. I think the Chiefs do it at like a 70% clip. And some people talk about it being wasted motion. It's never wasted motion when you're trying to identify what's going on the defensive side. So that's something, again, CeeDee Lamb's able to play in the slot, off the line of scrimmage, not able to get a jam on him because he does have a slighter frame. He is a smaller receiver. Yeah. I think that's a great call.
Over under 74 catches next year.
Oh, over.
Yeah.
Over under 935 yards next year.
Over.
He gets to 1,000. Yeah.
Over under 6 TDs.
Probably over on that as well.
I would say the over. I think 6 TDs is the floor.
He's probably close to wide receiver 15 with those numbers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we'll do we'll go a little bit quicker through these last few.
Yeah.
So Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Okay, so I'll ask you. I'm going to ask you guys the same questions. So his stats last year: 13 games, 181 rushes for 803 yards, 4 TDs. Passing wise, he had 36 catches for 36 catches on 54 targets for 1 TD. Mm-hmm. Okay, so are we over under 800 yards rushing next year? He played 13 games, so
yeah.
So you extrapolate that out a little bit.
I'd say the over slightly, not by a whole lot, and I guess I'll give my reasoning why coming up. But yeah, I would say the over.
And then. What do you think? Over under 36 receptions. Do you think he'll be used more next year as a passer?
I'm going to say over again, just because he'll play 3 more games. But again, we'll get into it. Why
Can he breach 1,000 yards on the ground?
He had 800 and what?
In 13 games.
Yeah, I would say
he got hurt midway through the New Orleans game, so he missed half that game. So 3.5 games he missed.
Okay, I just don't know. I'm okay with drafting him. I just don't know if to me. Where he was expected last year, and he was a potential first-round pick in a lot of drafts.
100%.
So I'm selling him based off of that.
Yep.
I would buy him if his expectations were a little lower. And I think going into the season they will be. But I'm selling him as far as last year. Mm-hmm. But I would be open to rostering him.
See, and I thought the same thing. I thought coming into this year, after what we saw last year where he was injured a little bit, we saw the workload kind of get distributed to Darrell Williams, especially towards the back half of the season. A little more. I did not expect him to be ranked as the running back 15 right now in Fantasy Pros.
Yeah, that's
he's ahead of Cam Akers. He's ahead of David Montgomery, who is my darling of the ball right now coming into the year. James Robinson and Chris Carson. Those are all guys who are ranked below Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And something that I don't know if people just haven't paid attention to or noticed, Damian Williams did not play for the Kansas City Chiefs last year. Mm-hmm. Damian Williams is not an unbelievable running back by any sense. But Damian Williams was the feature running back for the year that the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, and they treated him as such. Darrell Williams got some touches, but Damian Williams was the guy. I don't imagine Damian Williams comes in and sees nothing, especially with what he brings from the passing game. So does he eat into Clyde? I think so. Does he eat in as much as Darrell Williams and Le'Veon Bell last season? I think so. So at running back 15, in the best offense in the league where, Travis Kelce can score 2 touchdowns a game. Tyreek Hill has that capability.
Yeah.
Mecole Hardman is a guy who scores touchdowns.
Not everybody can go off on that offense.
The Chiefs are going to score. I think we averaged over 30 points a game last year, but even if you're averaging over 30 points a game, that's 3-4 touchdowns.
Right.
How many Patty has the ability to rush for a few. There's just so many people on that offense that are able to score.
Mm-hmm.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire, not that he takes a back seat. It's just he may not have the opportunities. We're on the 1 yard line and we'll throw a shuffle pass to the tight end. No problem. Yeah. It's a staple in the offense. So I'd be selling.
Yeah, Andrew, is he a goal line back for you guys?
We tried to force that. When I say we, I'm sorry, the Kansas City Chiefs tried to force that. I feel like
much we though.
It's kind of weird, but just for the sake of viewership, the Kansas City Chiefs tried to use him on the goal line.
Yeah.
He had games where he had multiple attempts with handoffs inside the 5. He wasn't super successful. He had a couple of impressive runs for his 4 touchdowns. He had an impressive run in the snow in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
He had in week 1 against the Texans, stuck his foot in the ground and left Justin Reed in the pay dirt, and went for 25 yards. So I think that's really where he makes his bread and butter. And I think getting a guy like Damian Williams back will kind of allow the Chiefs to use him between the 20s, and then maybe use Damian Williams once they get inside the red zone. And that's where I'm going to sell as well on Clyde, because I think he's really only going to score touchdowns, not necessarily from outside of 20 yards, but those inside the 5 touches may not be as affluent as they were last season, and he might not be getting them as much, unless we see a rise in production early on. But I'm going to sell. I think he's a great back, but I can't. There's not really any more reasons to kind of go off of. Johnny kind of made the case, and I'm going off of that.
Yeah, I think it's just, again, the rankings, right? Based on where he's
15
ranked,
seems high.
It's just way too high for a guy that, again, just based on the guys that I listed, right? Cam Akers very well could be a workhorse back next year. That's what they made it sound like. David Montgomery took the reins over and was a workhorse back throughout the whole season, but specifically towards the end.
Yeah.
James Robinson had the most touches for a rookie running back that I've seen in 20 years, I think it is, in terms of receiving targets and in terms of just pure rushes. And Chris Carson is a guy that Seattle and Pete Carroll, for some reason, like to suppress Russell Wilson and give Chris Carson the ball all the time. So, again, just based on the ranking, it makes sense to sell him at this point.
Do you think if Helaire was in Jacksonville last year as James Robinson, do you think he would put up reasonable numbers to what Robinson put up?
See, I could see it. I could see that.
Do you think he's a volume play then, is what I'm trying to get at?
He can be on the right offense, right? But just on the Chiefs and this high-powered offense, it's a little questionable. He is a little smaller than James Robinson.
Yeah.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire is 5'10", which, isn't small by any means, but James Robinson is 6'1", almost 6'2".
Mm-hmm.
He's huge.
Clyde's 5'8".
Oh, Jesus.
He's even smaller, but he's got a very low center of gravity.
Right,
which is what allows him to take the hits.
I think where maybe we'd be surprised is maybe, he's in an explosive offense, so maybe they build some more plays around him next year, and then we see some, I think you said a 25-yard TD run. So,
right.
Well, speaking of the Jaguars, we'll go through Laviska Shenault Jr. Not much to say here. He had 13 games. He was a little injured in the back half of the season. 58 receptions on 79 targets, 600 yards receiving. So, again, pretty low number, 5 TDs. I think we look at that and we're like, okay, those are pretty small numbers for the rookie wide receiver out of Jacksonville. He was used a little bit in the run game, if I remember correctly, too. They do have 4 wide receivers out there that they love to move the ball around to, but the offense was going to change with Trevor Lawrence coming in. So I think we're all kind of in agreement. We'd probably buy him with Trevor Lawrence, but what do you guys what do you guys think about Laviska? There's not much to say, right?
Yeah, I'm going to buy him just because I don't like anybody else's on the roster. And the people that I do like on that roster, like DJ Chark, just cannot stay healthy.
Right.
Chris Conley.
Chris Conley, he's a receiver. He's an NFL receiver. He is what he is. The one thing that I'm kind of excited for, not really excited, is I think Urban Meyer could really do a lot with him. Those of you who watch college football will probably remember a name, Braxton Miller. Braxton Miller was a quarterback, and Laviska Shenault wasn't. He's not a quarterback converted to a receiver, but Braxton Miller was able to play a receiver and the slot guy and a running back, while JT Barrett was kind of navigating the offense at quarterback while Urban Meyer was there. And they won a lot of ball games, and Braxton Miller, ended up being a relatively high draft pick because of it. So I could see Urban Meyer really using him kind of everywhere on the field through, like you said, through the backfield, out in space. And so I'm going to buy him just because I feel like he's the best of what they got, not named James Robinson. So
I'm going to, instead of asking you to buy, would you ever stack him? Do you see a way that next year for DFS you would stack him with like Trevor Lawrence and James Robinson? Is that a stack you would look at?
It's an option. I'm very much not a fan of stacking quarterbacks with running backs and a receiver. It's been really hard to nail down a running back, receiver, and quarterback all just going off, especially if I'm stacking, right, it's in terms of tournament plays only. So I would need all three of those guys to go absolutely off. It's way more likely that two wide receivers and a quarterback, or a quarterback and a tight end and receiver go off, as opposed to having the running back go off with them. For overall, I'm actually going to sell Laviska Shenault, and it's actually pretty simple why. And it's more of just a biased opinion here. There are some teams where I just will not play guys from. The Cincinnati Bengals were a team a few years ago. I just worked for like a 2 to 3 year stretch. I just didn't know what I was going to get, so I just didn't draft anybody. I don't think there's a team in the league with more questions besides maybe Houston going into this season about what in gosh darn they're going to do. The quarterback is brand new. The coach is brand new. Yeah. The receivers are brand new or just started. So, I mean, again, we don't know what that defense is. The division isn't great, but it's definitely not awful. I guess Houston's the only really bad team. It's nothing against Laviska Shenault. It's just somebody that it's Jacksonville, and I'm not going to go out of my way to start playing Jacksonville guys now. So I will sell Laviska Shenault just because, again, I'm not going to play Jacksonville guys. It's not what I'm going to do. Okay. I like my fantasy teams.
Well, we're maybe trending to not have a name being bought here too, but we'll see. Jerry Jeudy. So 16 games. One of those was a throwaway against New Orleans, where they had a running back 3 start the game to be their QB1.
Right.
The crazy thing is he had 113 targets last year, 52 catches, 856 yards, 3 touchdowns. I think he was a big play guy for what it's worth. But the way that I look at it, those 113 targets are coming down. Sutton was out all of last season. Yep. I think they didn't have the best offensive game plans. I would not buy him in terms of because I look at that production and then I don't look at I don't think he's a production play because he's not going to get as much play probably next year.
Right.
And so that's kind of how I look at it. I would sell him. I guess I didn't see enough out of him to I just don't like the flashy have to rely on
big plays
and not there's flashy and consistent Tyreek Hill,
right,
and there's flashy and inconsistent, and that's where I would put Jerry Jeudy in.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. My notes literally just say drops passes, bad completion percentage, lock sucks. So
I have the same thing in mind. I have the same thing. Literally just Drew Lock stinks.
Yeah, I mean when you really look at it, what did you say? 113 targets and how many catches?
Only 52 catches.
What? That's what is that? Like a 50%?
It's like a 48% reception percentage, maybe.
So no,
that's ridiculous.
That's absolutely terrible.
Laviska Shenault was 58 for 79 in comparison, right?
58, yeah. I mean, what is you want your completion percentage for a quarterback to be above 65%. So if you're telling me that this guy's completion percentage when Drew Lock's throwing the football is 49%, I am Audi 5000, baby. I mean, we are gone. And I mean, again, Drew Lock was awful last year. I mean, homeboy thinks he danced the year before that to a song and was all cool and crap, and it comes out last year and is absolutely terrible. There's no bones about it. He was terrible. Cortland Sutton's coming back. Noah Fant was hurt last year. I'm selling Jerry Jeudy. I mean, he's an unbelievable talent. And like I said, he even dropped passes last year.
And I can see Denver using a 2 tight end spread a lot. Fant's backup, I'm forgetting his name right now, came in. He had a couple of games.
His name was something with a bunch of consonants.
Something.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it was a bunch of consonants.
I think he was used out of need, but I could see them playing a little less erratic and toning it down a little bit and just not just lobbing the ball up and trying and hoping at one out of less than 50% odds that Jeudy's going to catch it for you.
My biggest problem is that if you're going to get outperformed by Tim Patrick, I don't think I need you on my fantasy team.
Yeah, it was a weird wide receiver group.
He had plenty of opportunities. We talked about Jerry Jeudy like last year. Going into last year, everyone talked about Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, the two Alabama receivers that are going to come in and I know it was their rookie season, but I think everyone was a bit like a year early maybe on these Alabama receivers. I think Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle are just such better prospects than Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs. And again, I can't say it enough. Drew Lock sucks.
Yeah, he's not very good.
Want to let you know.
Yeah.
I do not like Drew Lock.
Yeah.
I think he is a very below average quarterback, and I'm hoping John Elway keeps him there for a very long time.
For our Chiefs' sake, right?
Jerry
Jeudy or Laviska Shenault. What would you guys do there?
Jesus, man.
I think I'd probably take. I bought Shenault, so I'm gonna say Laviska Shenault, and I think, and I'm buying him mostly because of I think the amount of usage and the amount of work he's gonna get.
Right. I'd agree. I'd say Laviska.
Shenault or CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb or Chase Claypool.
CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb or T Higgins.
CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb or Brandon Aiyuk.
CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb, yeah.
I really like CeeDee Justin Jefferson.
Justin Jefferson.
CeeDee Lamb.
Nah.
Yeah, I'm going CeeDee Lamb.
I like it.
I'm going CeeDee
Lamb. I don't know. Blasphemous Justin Jefferson.
I do like the quarterback in Dallas a little bit more than I like the quarterback in Minnesota.
I agree.
I really like CeeDee Lamb.
Kyle Rudolph's gone. I think CeeDee Lamb's. I think Justin Jefferson's a better route runner. I think CeeDee Lamb might be a little more explosive with the ball in his hands.
And I think Jefferson's the better receiver.
Right.
I just think CeeDee Lamb is going to be a better fantasy player.
Okay.
That is barring Dak returning.
I would take that bet if we were doing like a bet around the thing here and we like had isn't it the Dan Patrick show? Yeah. Slap bet, right? A gentleman's agreement.
Are you saw here first, everyone?
No. Take it out. Cut it out.
Yeah, a little worried. Justin Jefferson got you a little worried.
He's really good.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Playing good. Yeah, absolutely. That's funny.
All right, so. I mean, that the rookie buy or sell is. There's a lot of great talent from last season coming into next season, so it's going to be exciting to kind of see that. Makes me just like thirst for the NFL season to come back. I'm so excited for it.
There's no NBA last night either. It's just a disaster.
All-Star weekend.
No NBA till Thursday.
Yeah, no
this week.
Right. So that's pretty much all we got for you guys today. Don't forget to like and subscribe because that helps us out a lot. That was 4 thumbs up. I'm not going to give you any more because any more thumbs and we have a creature you can't identify. I'm going to leave you guys with this today. From the Bahamas to Pompeii, thank you for watching AJA. Until next time, bye everyone.
Rhyme time.